Welcome to the Flip Castle podcast.
All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into some seriously weird stuff that's been popping up online.
Oh, yeah, some strange stuff.
People are freaking out about lights and shapes in the sky.
Okay.
And it's not just about the sightings themselves. It's this whole, rabbit hole of theories about reality shifting and even, government cover-ups.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
So for this deep dive, we're going to be looking at a video by Miss Sam, who is, I guess you could call her a spiritual advisor or commentator.
Right, yeah.
She's got some pretty unique takes on all this.
Very unique.
And just a heads up, we are going into her interpretations here.
Absolutely.
So just, keep that in mind.
Yeah, and just for context, she's kind of known for mixing, ancient wisdom with modern conspiracy theories.
Right.
Which is, I think why she's got such a big following online.
Yeah, people are really drawn to that.
It's interesting.
So right off the bat, she's like, forget drones. These things are not drones. Some people are saying she's calling them plasmoids.
Plasmoids.
And I know how that sounds.
Yeah.
But she spells it P-A-L.
That's right.
Not just P.
Yeah.
Plasmoids and orbs.
Interesting.
So what are those, according to her?
Okay, so plasmoids are like these clusters of living matter.
Okay.
Made up of molecules and atoms, right?
Uh-huh.
But they come together and form these geometric shapes.
Right.
Then you got the orbs, which are similar, but she's very clear that they're not the same as orishas.
What are orishas?
Those are entities in some African religions.
Okay.
But these orbs, she says they're celestial, not from Earth.
Not of this world.
Not of this world.
Okay, so this is where things get a little
weird.
Yeah, a little creepy.
A little spooky.
She starts talking about the danger of these things. Are they peaceful?
Right.
Or are they demonic?
That's a good question.
Right? What are we dealing with here?
Yeah. And then she brings up Lucifer
Oh.
and a light show. So there's this implication of some kind of spiritual battle happening.
Okay, so that's a whole other layer to this,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's not just some weird lights.
This is good versus evil kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Light versus dark.
Yeah. So it gets pretty heavy.
Pretty stuff.
And then she ties it all into current events.
Oh, really? How so?
Remember that guy Luigi?
Yeah.
Who blew the whistle on those insurance companies?
I remember that, yeah.
She says that what he did, good as it was technically criminal.
Right.
And that maybe these powerful forces behind these orbs are retaliating against him.
Oh, wow. So she's saying this is a direct response.
Yeah, it's they unleashed these things because of what he did.
I mean, who are these powerful forces, though? Is she talking about, the government?
Well, she mentions the New World Order.
Of course she does.
Which, if you're familiar with conspiracy theories, that's
Yeah, it's a big one.
Staple, right? This idea that there's this elite group pulling the strings behind everything.
Yeah, it's shadowy and they're controlling everything.
Exactly. So we've got these potentially demonic orbs, maybe controlled by this shadowy elite.
This is a lot.
I know, right? But how does this all connect to her claim that reality is actually shifting?
Right. Well, her theory is that these orbs, controlled by this elite, they're actually changing how we perceive reality.
Oh.
Actively messing with it.
Okay.
And she says that because we have all these unmet demands
Oh, interesting.
and we rely so much on authority figures, it makes us super vulnerable to manipulation.
Okay. I mean, it sounds crazy, but also kind of makes sense.
I know, right? It's think about all the stuff we just accept without question.
Yeah.
It's a little scary.
All right, but what evidence does she actually have for this? Does she back any of this up?
Well, she brings up a few examples.
Okay, lay it on me.
First, there's this photo that was going around TikTok, apparently taken by someone named Liz Galante. It shows a hexagonal or octagonal orb near the Santa Susana Field Lab.
Where's that?
In Simi Valley, California.
Okay.
And Miss Sam seems to think that's significant for some reason.
Interesting.
Then there's some footage from Phoenix, Arizona,
Okay.
just a few days ago, actually, on December 14th,
Oh, wow.
showing these orange orbs in the sky. And then she even talks about seeing similar orbs herself in Morocco.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but at first she thought they were just satellites.
Okay, so she's basing this on personal stories and stuff she's seen online.
It's not exactly hard evidence, right?
Right. But before we go any further,
Yeah.
I do want to mention that not everyone interprets these sightings the same way.
Oh, of course.
She brings up Charlemagne, the guy.
Okay, yeah.
And he straight up thinks it's aliens.
Aliens, huh?
Yeah, and that those orbs are their spacecraft,
So not reality-bending devices, just alien vehicles.
Right. Right. And speaking of different interpretations, she uses this really powerful analogy to describe this whole shifting reality thing.
I'm intrigued. What is it?
She talks about a torn cloth. Like, imagine a sheet that's separating us from other realms.
Okay.
And she says there are tiers and openings in that sheet now.
Oh, wow.
So we're seeing things that have really been happening all along.
Like we're getting glimpses behind the curtain.
Exactly. It's a pretty intense image.
Yeah, for sure.
So given all this, what does she think we should be doing about it? Like, how are we supposed to react?
Well, she's adamant that we shouldn't just sit around waiting for the authorities to tell us what's going on.
Okay, so be proactive.
Right. She says we need to become spiritually self-reliant.
What does that even mean?
Well, she specifically recommends using crystals.
Crystals?
Yeah, black crystals and clear quartz.
Oh, for
protection.
Protection from what? The orbs?
Yeah, and for, gaining a deeper understanding of what's happening.
So like a spiritual shield.
Exactly. And, not so coincidentally.
What?
She sells black crystals on her website.
Of course she does.
www.celestialtypefree.com.
Okay, got it. I'll make a note of that.
She also says we should be using crystal lenses with telescopes to observe the orbs.
Interesting.
And that we should explore the meaning of geometric shapes.
Geometric shapes? Like triangles and squares.
Yeah, she seems to think they hold some key to understanding all this.
It's like she's advocating for a very DIY approach to spirituality,
Yeah, and to knowledge gathering, especially in a world where things might not be what they seem.
Right. So it's like, don't trust the authorities, trust yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, so she's big on personal responsibility.
Oh, absolutely.
But she doesn't stop there. She goes on to talk about this thing she calls the government-sanctioned occult, which... that's a mouthful.
Yes.
So what does that even mean?
Basically, she claims that the government would never openly allow us to interact with occult or supernatural beings.
That's an interesting claim.
It is, right? Why not?
Yeah, why wouldn't they?
Well, she contrasts that with the idea of taking personal responsibility for things like, summoning spirits.
Oh, okay.
Or working with your ancestors or rishas.
Okay.
Her point is, if we want supernatural help, we got to seek it out ourselves.
Not wait for the government to tell us what to do.
Right. Don't wait for them to give you permission.
Okay, but hold on. If these orbs are real and maybe dangerous, wouldn't the government have a duty to warn people?
That's a great question, and it's one that a lot of people are asking online.
Yeah, it's like, why would they hide something like that?
Right. It just fuels more speculation and conspiracy theories.
It definitely does.
It makes you wonder if she sees a difference between, good supernatural stuff,
right,
like working with your ancestors, and this potentially darker, more sinister version.
Like the stuff the government might be trying to cover up?
Exactly.
That's a really good point. It's like, is there a hierarchy of the supernatural?
That's a question we could spend a whole other deep dive exploring.
Yeah, for sure. But for now, I think we need to pause here and give everyone a chance to digest all this.
This is a lot to take in.
It is. But don't worry. We'll be back with part 2, where we delve even deeper into Miss Sam's world.
We'll get into the nature of reality, the possibility of multiple dimensions, and what it all means for us.
So stay tuned. It's only going to get weirder from here.
Oh, yeah. Buckle up.
All right. See you in part 2.
See you then.
All right. So last time we were talking about that government-sanctioned occult thing.
Right.
And how Miss Sam seems to think there's a difference between... seeking spiritual guidance on your own.
Yeah.
And relying on these external forces, especially the government.
It's like she's saying there's a right way and a wrong way to do supernatural, even if it's dangerous.
Exactly. And she specifically warns against those mass-produced spiritual tools.
Like what? Like those crystals you can buy online?
Yeah. She actually calls out buying spiritual beads from Amazon or Alibaba.
No way. Really?
Yeah. She contrasts those with the pendants she sells on her website. Okay, so a little self-promotion there.
A little bit. But her point is that those mass-produced things, they don't have the same energy.
So it's not just about the object itself, it's about the intention behind it.
Right, like where it came from and how it was made.
Makes you think about how we define authenticity in spirituality.
The big business now.
It is. There's so much stuff out there.
It's easy to get caught up in the trends.
And forget what it's really about.
Exactly. Which brings us back to that personal responsibility thing.
Right, taking ownership of your spiritual journey.
Not just blindly following someone else's path.
But how do you even know what's genuine anymore?
It's tough, right? With all the information out there, it's hard to sift through.
And misinformation.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
So what's Miss Sam's advice on that?
She says it comes down to that inner compass.
Oh, right, the intuition.
Yeah, strengthening that inner voice.
But what if you're just fooling yourself?
That's where critical thinking comes in.
Right, you got to question things.
Examine the evidence.
Look at different perspectives.
Exactly. Blind faith can be just as bad as blind skepticism.
It's all about finding that balance.
Open-minded, but also discerning.
Willing to explore, but also cautious.
That's key, especially when we're talking about something as big as the nature of reality.
Right, this isn't just about lights in the sky anymore.
She's suggesting our whole perception of reality might be wrong.
That there might be other dimensions out there.
Coexisting with our own.
I mean, that's a pretty mind-blowing concept.
It is, but it's not a new one.
Yeah, I guess a lot of cultures have believed in multiple dimensions.
And even in physics, there's string theory.
Oh, right.
Which suggests there could be dimensions beyond what we can see.
Okay, so even science is open to the possibility.
It's not as far-fetched as it might seem.
So, but how do these orbs fit into all of this?
Well, she sees them as like doorways to these other realms.
Oh, wow.
Those tiers in the fabric of reality.
So we're getting glimpses of what's hidden.
Exactly, like the veil is thinning.
But why now? Why are we seeing this now?
That's a question a lot of people are asking.
Yeah, it's like, what changed?
Some people think it's a rise in consciousness.
Like we're evolving as a species.
Right, becoming more aware of these energies.
Others think it's a sign of something more ominous.
Like a breakdown of the old order.
And the emergence of something new.
That we might not be ready for.
So no one really knows for sure.
It's all interpretation at this point.
But the fact that we're even asking these questions.
It means something's changing.
It's like we're waking up.
Or stepping through the looking glass.
Into a world where the rules are different.
And the possibilities are endless.
And maybe a little scary.
It's both exciting and challenging.
Because if reality really is shifting.
We have to figure out how to respond.
How to prepare.
What role we want to play.
That's a lot to think about.
It is. And I think we need a little more time to unpack it all.
Okay, let's take a break and come back for part 3.
We'll dive into Miss Sam's advice for navigating these changes.
And what it all means for the future.
Stay tuned.
All right, so we're back. And I gotta say, my head is still spinning a little from all this talk about orbs and dimensions and shifting realities.
It's a lot.
It is. And, part of me is like, okay, this is fascinating. But what do I actually do with this information?
Right, like how do you prepare for a reality that's constantly changing?
Exactly. So thankfully, Miss Sam does give us some guidance on that.
She does.
Because otherwise I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to go hide under the covers now.
Yeah, understandable.
So what does she say? What are we supposed to do?
Well, she emphasizes that it's not about being passive.
Okay.
Like you can't just wait for the world to change around you.
You got to take action.
Exactly. You have to actively shape your own reality.
Even as the bigger picture is shifting.
Right. It's like taking control in the midst of chaos.
Okay, that sounds pretty empowering, actually.
It is.
So how do we do that?
Well, she talks about using a combination of spiritual practices and tools.
Okay, like what?
Remember those crystals?
Yeah, the black crystals and the clear quartz.
Right. She sees them as more than just pretty rocks.
Yeah.
They're amplifiers, protectors.
So they can help you connect with those energies.
Yeah, and shield yourself from negative influences.
It's like a spiritual force field.
Kind of, yeah.
But she also mentioned some other things, like using crystal lenses with telescopes.
Oh, yeah, to observe the orbs.
Right, and exploring the meaning of geometric shapes.
That's where it gets interesting.
Like triangles and squares.
Exactly. She actually suggests incorporating them into your everyday life.
How do you do that?
Through things like tattoos, braids, earrings.
Hey, seriously, tattoos.
Yeah, and even coloring books.
Coloring books.
I know, it sounds a little out there.
A little bit.
But her thinking is that these shapes, they hold a deeper meaning.
Okay.
Like an energetic blueprint that can influence our reality.
So by engaging with those shapes,
we tap into that power.
It makes me think of all those ancient cultures that use symbols and geometry.
Right. Like maybe they were onto something.
Maybe. So it's like she's blending ancient wisdom with modern ideas.
Absolutely. Consciousness, energy.
It's a very eclectic approach.
It is. And she encourages people to find their own way.
To connect with the spiritual.
Using whatever tools resonate with them.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Not at all. It's about personal exploration.
Experimentation.
Finding your own path.
So going back to the beginning, this whole deep dive has been about exploring these new perspectives.
Questioning our assumptions.
Opening ourselves up to the possibility that there's more to reality
than we can see or understand.
It's been a wild ride.
It has.
I'm not sure I'm ready for a crystal tattoo just yet.
That's fair.
But I've learned a lot.
You too.
And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that willingness to question.
To explore.
To embrace the unknown.
Because even if you don't agree with everything Miss Sam says,
right,
she makes you think outside the box.
She challenges you.
To consider possibilities you might have dismissed before.
Absolutely, and that's valuable in itself.
It is.
It's not about blindly accepting every theory.
But using it as a starting point.
For your own exploration.
Your own discovery.
Who knows, maybe we'll uncover some truths.
About ourselves and the universe.
That we never could have imagined.
It's exciting to think about.
It is. Well, that's about all the time we have for this deep dive.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
But before we go, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay.
If reality is shifting, as Miss Sam suggests, what role do you want to play in shaping the world to come?
That's a powerful question.
It is. It's something for all of us to think about.
As we navigate these uncertain times.
So thank you for joining us on this journey.
We hope it sparked your curiosity.
And inspired you to keep exploring.
The mysteries of the universe.
Both within and around you.
Until next time, keep those minds open.
And those questions coming.
See you next time.